So good afternoon, friends. Last class we saw some of the combinational logic elements. We saw some of the logic gates. AND gate we saw, OR gate, exclusive OR gate, NOR gate, NOT gate. So all these logic gates are used in digital mechatronic systems, so to say. Let us move further. We had talked about two types of logic circuitries. One was combinational logic, and the second one was sequential logic system. The difference also we identified. Uh, Sequential logic circuitry have a memory element included in them, whereas in plain combinational logic systems, we don't have memory elements. Rather than requirements, we set the circuit and use it for our particular application. Whereas in sequential logic, we can store some of the logic functions in the memory, and later on those can be used along with my combinational logic gates. And as per my system requirements, as per my output requirements, as per my processing requirements, I'll use the sequential logic systems. We'll not be studying these things in details because it's not within the scope of our syllabus. Let us see plainly where a system requires an output which depends on earlier values of the inputs, a sequential logic system is required. So, where a system requires an output which depends on earlier values of the inputs, a sequential logic system is required. The main difference between a combinational logic system and a sequential logic system is that the sequential logic system must have some form of memory. So whatever inputs I'm going to give to the combinational logic gates, those outputs will be taken out, and whatever actions those were taken through logic gates, those will be memorized and those will be used in further operations. So this is the additional memory element used in elements used in sequential logic. Now there are various memory elements. Out of that, flip-flops are the basic memory elements which are made up of an assembly of logic gates and is a sequential logic device. There are a number of forms of flip-flops: set reset type of flip-flop, JK flip-flop, and D flip-flop. You can refer, if you want some more details on flip-flops, you can refer a book by Bolton, Mechatronics by Bolton. For that matter, for the entire syllabus, you can refer Bolton for all the topics. So set reset flip-flop, JK flip-flop, and D flip-flop are some of the memory elements used in sequential logic devices. We'll not be getting into details of these flip-flops. We'll just have an overview. Now, in my digital signal conditioning devices, we need a register also, and we sometimes need a timer also. So a register is a set of memory elements and is used to hold information until it is needed. As we know, friends, we'll be using in digital control systems. We'll be using either a microprocessor, microcontroller, or a laptop maybe, or a desktop computer. So any of the computers or a digital control device as the microprocessor or microcontroller will be using. So a register is a set of memory elements and is used to hold information until it is needed. You must be remembering in two classes earlier, prior to two classes, we talked about data acquisition system and data acquisition card also. There also we had registers which store that information. So it can be implemented by a set of flip-flops. Each flip-flop stores a binary signal, that is either a 0 or a 1. So registers can be implemented by a set of flip-flops. Then the timer. So supposing that in certain operations, we have repeated operations and which are time bound. Like we conduct a lecture, after every 1 hour, there should be a ring that is ringing, right? So a set timing is there. So we can make use of a 555 timer, which can be set for any of my timing requirements. Just an elementary example, I told you that you can make use of timers in many of the engineering circuitries. Even when there is a suppose in the chemical process industry, after certain time, maybe 3 minutes, the reaction is getting over. So I should have a buzzer or I should have an alarm for completion of that operation. So there we can make use of these timing circuitries. The 555 timer chip is a very widely used in digital circuits, and as it can provide a wide variety of timing tasks. It consists of an SR flip-flop with inputs fed by two comparators. As I said, if you want more details, you can refer book by Bolton on mechatronics. So this is the way registers and timers are used in digital signal conditioning circuits. Now, this interfacing is also one of the important uh, conditioning that we need to do in case of mechatronic systems. Now, this is actually we'll be discussing this in details when we study microprocessors and microcontrollers in the later part of your curriculum. Maybe this is the 5th unit probably. This is unit 2 we are studying. Because it is mentioned in the syllabus, I am discussing it now. Briefly, I'll be discussing interfacing here. And thereafter, when we study our microprocessor and microcontroller, we'll be discussing interfacing into a greater detail. Now, in a microprocessor, look at this block diagram. A microprocessor is my central processor or central controller, let's say. And I have my sensors which will be sensing the data. And microprocessors are going to process that data. And then they'll be giving out an actuating signal, or the process signal will be given to an actuator, maybe a hydraulic cylinder, maybe an electric motor, which will be actuating the end effector. If it is a robot, it is an end effector. If it is a furnace control system, it will be a heater. If it is a speed control system, it is the fuel that is supplied to the engine. So those end effectors or actuators are to be actuated. So microprocessor acts as a controlling element, right? And I have my sensor and transducer data, which will be obtained as a feedback signal from the process proper. And this is to be processed by a microprocessor. Now, in microprocessor, either the sensor data can be fed, or using a keyboard, mouse, or whatever interface, whatever graphic user interface that I have, all those peripherals will be used. Now, this keyboard, mouse, other digital pad, all these are called as the peripherals. Even the sensor signal can also be called as a peripheral. So these peripherals will be generating certain signals, which might be analog. Those are needed to be converted into digital form, or a binary coded decimal, maybe a hexadecimal. So whatever is the requirement for a microprocessor, that input data, which is either given by a sensor transducer, or you as a control engineer will be inputting through your keyboard and mouse. So these peripheral devices are used. Now, these peripheral device inputs or the sensor transducer data, which is to be processed by a microprocessor or a microcontroller, it has to be in a compatible form, that is a digestible form. Microprocessor ला ज्या पद्धतीने process करता येईल त्या पद्धतीने that signal should be modified. You cannot take the sensor signal directly and give it to the microprocessor. It cannot receive it, it cannot process it. So this is from the input side of the microprocessor. I need some interfacing circuitry or interfacing devices, so that whatever inputs I am giving through sensor transducers or through my keyboard, through my mouse, whatever are the system inputs, those should be processed properly, and those should be made appropriate, compatible for the microprocessor to receive. So those from the input side, we require interfacing circuitry or interfacing devices. The microprocessor will receive the digital appropriate compatible digital signal, and then it will once again generate a digital signal only. Now this digital signal, let us say it has to run a DC motor, permanent magnet DC motor, which is maybe opening or closing the door of the furnace, or the gripper is opening or closing. So that motor which has got which works as an actuator will have one cam operated end effector which will open or close the gripper, let us say. Now my microprocessor has received the input from my peripheral devices or from my sensor, which is compatible to my microprocessor. And thereafter, microprocessor or a microcontroller generates a control signal. Now, this control signal will be essentially in digital form. Let it be a microprocessor or microcontroller, or my desktop or my PC or my laptop, whatever it is. So that processing element will generate a digital signal. That digital signal cannot run my DC motor. It cannot run an hydraulic actuator. It cannot run a pneumatic actuator. It cannot run a solenoid directly. So that digital signal is needed to be converted properly into appropriate analog form, or it should be processed properly so that I can run my motor, right? So I need to have interfacing devices at the output side also. So microprocessor output, which will be in digital form, I require interfacing circuitry or interfacing devices at the output side also. And then I'll have once again peripherals. Now these peripherals could be, as I said, of the form of an actuator. All these peripherals, in simple terms, I have received some data. I have received some data. I have interfaced it with the microprocessor. Microprocessor has generated the data, and I want to give that signal to a printer or a recorder. So there also I require proper interfacing circuitry so that the whatever is the process signal will help the printer to get me a printout, or a recorder to record that data in appropriate fashion. So at the input of the microprocessor also, I require an interfacing circuitry. At the output of the microprocessor also, I require interfacing circuitry. Let us quickly see. When a microprocessor is used to control some system, it has to process the information and respond to it and produce output signal to implement the required control action. That's what we discussed. It will take the input, process it, and give it to the output elements. Thus, there can be inputs from sensors to feed data in, into the microprocessor, and outputs to such external devices as the relays, motors, maybe pneumatic actuators, hydraulic actuators, mechanical actuators. So there can be inputs from sensors which will give me feedback, and accordingly I need to take certain control action, isn't it? So I need to give the microprocessor needs to generate an output and actuate those external devices as relays and motors. The term peripheral devices is used for a device such as a sensor or a keyboard or an actuator. Now, sensor and keyboard are from the input side. The interfacing devices from the input side. Whereas actuators, maybe recorders, printers, those could be the peripherals at the output end of a microprocessor, which is connected to a microprocessor. So the term peripheral is used for a device such as a sensor, keyboard, actuator, etc. which is connected to a microprocessor. It is, however, not normally possible to connect directly such peripheral devices to a microprocessor bus system due to a lack of compatibility in signal forms and levels, isn't it? So my peripheral devices will not be the signal generated by my peripheral devices may not be compatible for the microprocessor. So for that, to improve the compatibility, to make it processable by the microprocessor, I need interfacing circuit. Because of such incompatibility, a circuit known as an interface or interfacing circuit is used between the peripheral items and the microprocessor. Between the peripheral items and microprocessor, both at the input end, peripherals, interfacing devices, input to the microprocessor. Then from microprocessor, output will be generated. Then it will be using one more interfacing circuit at the output end, and then it will be given to the peripheral. Peripheral at the output end, as I said, can be an actuator, electrical actuator, solenoid valve, pneumatic actuator, hydraulic actuator, electro-pneumatic, electro-hydraulic actuator, or a DC motor, maybe stepper motor, AC motor, whatever are the actuating elements will be our peripherals. So this is briefly the use of interfacing circuitry. As I said, we'll be discussing these interfacing circuitries in details when we study our microprocessors and microcontrollers. If you are going to build if you are going to do a project by using a microprocessor, by using a microcontroller, or by using a PIC microcontroller, or maybe using an embedded system, we need to use interfacing circuitry. We cannot run my devices or equipments without using interfacing circuitry. So we'll discuss those things in details when we study microprocessor, microcontroller. We'll move further, friends. As I said, relays. Once again, this does not fall into the flow of our discussion of various topics, and because it is mentioned in the syllabus, I'm covering it now. Actually, we need to study these interfacing circuitries and relays and all these things when we study microprocessors and microcontrollers. Okay, just going by the syllabus flow, we'll study one of the types of electromagnetic relays. As you can see in the diagram, this is initially closed. So this is called as normally closed switch, NC switch. Be attentive. Don't read now, just observe at the sketch. So there is a push rod. This is normally closed and this is normally open. This is NO normally open and this is normally closed. So this will be closed initially and this will remain open initially. Now, when I want to use these switches and actuate my motor, actuate my heater, whatever are the high current devices are there, I cannot run my high current and high voltage devices directly by using digital signals. Or directly by using a weak analog signal even, by weak electronic signal even. So because all those are high current devices, high voltage devices, so I need to use those devices through relays. Now there could be mechanical relays are also there, electrical relays are also there. This is the electromagnetic relay we are going to study now. Okay, so this is initially normally closed and this is normally open. So this will be closed initially, this will be open initially. Now when I want to open this, when I want to, so this is normally open and this is normally closed. Okay. Okay. So this is normally closed NC and this is normally open. Okay. This is a push rod. Now, when I want to use those NC and NO switches, what I do is I have a coil, electromagnetic field is generated, and there will be a magnetizing current that will be flowing. Now, because of this magnetizing effect, this armature will be pulled towards the coil, like a solenoid. As a solenoid, the core is pulled or pushed inside a solenoid. In this electromagnetic field, this armature will be pulled or pushed. Now, when it is pulled, this push rod will be pulled. And as I said, this was normally closed. As this push rod is pulled, this was normally closed and this was normally open. What I want to do is I want to open this and I want to close this. So when I energize this coil, this armature will be pulled, this push rod will be pulled. Once this push rod is pulled, what happens? This normally closed switch or normally closed contact will be open. And this normally open contact, remember this push rod is pulled and initially this was closed, this will be open. So NC will become NO and NO, when this push rod is pulled, this NO will become open. It will become closed. Normally opened will become closed, and normally closed will become open. So this is how. Now, through these contacts, now these contacts are connected to my external circuitry, where maybe I have a heater which is to be put on or put off. Now, through the heater, suppose it is a 10 kilowatt heater. So, a large amount of current is flowing through that circuitry. So, I cannot do switching on those circuit currents directly. Instead, I make use of these relays. Now, these relays will make or break that circuit, or these contact switches will be connected to my electric motor. There also some high currents will be flowing through those motors. So through these contact switches, I'll be making the circuit or putting the circuit on or putting the circuit off. This way, I can make use of these electromagnetic relays. Now, these relays are a variety of actuators. We'll be studying in the next unit, unit 3, wherein we'll be studying various mechanical actuators, various electrical actuators, various electronic actuators, various hydraulic actuators, various pneumatic actuators. There once again, we'll be studying variety of relays. Just because it was involved in the included in the syllabus in Unit 2 as the introductory part, I have just briefly discussed this type of relay here. Friends, we'll stop for today.